Hi, so I'm going to be going through my regular expressions project, what regular expressions are, what their function is, and particularly how they're used within CAT tools. Let me go to my next slide. So just to start, how I learned about regular expressions was through completing the RegEx 1 lessons. It's a website that kind of walks you through 15 different lessons on how to use the special characters that are included in regular expressions, their functions, how you can use them to specify your searches and pull up the data that you're looking for. So I went through all 15 of these lessons. They kind of build on each other as you grow, and this is how I got some background knowledge on how to use them. And then for the part of seeing how they relate to CAT tools, how I learned about this is I selected 3 articles that have been written on this subject by experts in the field, talking about different functions that RegEx serves and how they're used in CAT tools. So at the most basic level, regular expressions can be used kind of as a search and replace option, like you might use control find within a document or online to find something particular. You can use regular expressions to specify those searches more and pull the results you're really looking for, particularly in CAT tools, as I have listed on this slide. There's multiple additional functions that they're used for, like regulating and maintaining tags within CAT tools, just making sure that those are working properly. It also makes it easy to search for competing forms of the same word. So for example, word variation we see frequently based on dialect or sometimes just for different reasons. For example, gray spelled with an A versus an E. So if I wanted to grab the results for both of those, if I just wanted to see when gray was appearing and I wanted both of the spellings, I could use one of these searches as seen on my slide here, either with a pipe between the letters in parentheses or using the brackets, because then it would search for both forms of the word and I could gather all my results in one search. You can also use RegEx to exclude or include certain characters at will. So you can tell it to avoid certain letters if you don't want them. You can also have it determine the number of times a certain letter appears. So in this example below, something we would never expect would be to see the phrase "was up," this informal greeting. We would never expect to see that with only one Z. That would be really abnormal to us. However, seeing it with 2, 3, 4, 5 would seem normal. Having more than one, very regular. So if we wanted to gather results for that, we might run a search like the one below where we specify that we want between 2 and 6 Z's. We probably wouldn't expect more than that. So we could have our search for occurrences of 2 to 6 specifically so that we're getting the specific results that we would expect and that we want. So kind of to compare the good and the bad of what I learned from doing this project, some of the things that went really well. One of the things that just kept me really excited was that I had a little bit of familiarity with the idea of RegEx just from corpus linguistics classes and things like that. I didn't know a lot about how they worked. That's kind of what interested me in doing this project, but just that initial interest really helped me move along in this project. The lessons were also really enjoyable. Some of the examples were, they're kind of random examples, but they were interesting and they kind of built on each other. So it was a good learning experience. And another thing that was really good is it was possible to go back and redo lessons. And they also offer solutions so you can see the best way to run your search to get the specific results you're looking for. So that was really helpful. Things that went less well. In the earlier lessons, it was pretty easy to move past the lesson without fully understanding the rule. If you look at the bottom of my slide, you'll see on the right-hand side that I technically matched the top 2 and skip the third one just by typing out a second Z. So technically I fulfill the requirement. However, that's not a very good search and it wouldn't necessarily get me just what I want. It would get me anything that started with WAZZ versus the search on the left where I actually use the regular expression to specify the number of Z's that I want and actually finish the word following that. It would give me more specific results. So the regular expressions are very useful. In the beginning, it was kind of easy to pass them over and I had to go back and kind of learn them. So that's kind of what my second point is here, is that I did have to go back and redo some of the lessons as I got further along because they started getting more complicated and building on each other. So that's something that took some practice, and I had to go back and redo some stuff, but overall, all it worked really well. If I were to do this again, some things that I would do differently, I think that I might read the articles first if I were to do this again, just to get kind of the big picture and understand the application of regular expressions within the context of cat tools before I dived into understanding like specific examples. I think that could have been helpful. And I think that I also, if I were to do it again or advise someone to do it, I would tell them to read the solution after they solve each lesson instead of doing what I did and kind of just moving along through them. And then having to go back and kind of make sure that I understood things and make sure that I actually knew how to use the characters and wasn't just moving along. But overall, this was a very interesting project. Regular expressions clearly have a very big use, and it was very interesting to learn about them. So that is my project. Thank you.